I'm ready when you are. What's going on, everybody?
Yo, yo, yo.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
AGB is live again, man. So let's just start off by just saying, go Birds.
Let's get out the way.
Go.
Let's get it out the way.
Let's get it out the way. We're already down 1-0, but I believe we are not getting swept. We are going to win tonight. And then once we win tonight, we're going to win another one. We're going to make history and come back from being down 2-0. Love my Orioles, man, but I just thought I'd bring some energy and bring some positivity to their experience. I know that they're, 2-0 is tough, man. Texas is good, but I believe. How you doing, man?
Hey, doing great. Texas Rangers up 2-0, so can't complain about that. But no, actually, it's fun. Baseball playoffs underway. Got a big shout out to all my former coworkers, big Minnesota Twin fans. I see a few of them are at the game right now. It's cool to see Minnesota break off so much years of just tough times in the playoffs.
Yeah, we got some Minnesota fans in AGB, so I guess I'll be rooting for them if Orioles go out, but I don't anticipate us going out. We're gonna win tonight. I can feel it. But all that comment aside, JB, you and I have a really good player-coach relationship, right? We always have. We brag about it all the time. We built a business around it. So tonight we're going live to talk about that. Talk about player-coach relationships. In my line of work, I get an opportunity to talk to a lot of different athletes. I talk to a lot of different coaches, and I hear a lot of common things going on between both, where I think that everyone can benefit from a conversation around what are the things we need to do to have better relationships with our players. In 2023, that's a different conversation than it was a long time ago. So I'm looking forward to getting into that tonight.
Absolutely. And I know we've talked about a lot, in the beginning of AGB, our first episode out there is kind of the origin story of that exact, right? Our player coach relationship. And so it's so strong that you can come back 14 years later and build a business with it, right? I mean,
yeah, and I don't want to skim over that. I know we have other content out there where we've talked about this before, but I just want to drive it home every time I get a chance. I just want to drive it home. I don't know what the number is, but when you've been coaching, I've been coaching since 2004, so that's 19 years, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what the number is among the athletes I've worked with, but I'm always holding them to the standard that you set. Because for me, it was a matter of how attentive you were to the process of getting better, but then how capable you were of pushing me as a coach with respect and appreciation for what I was bringing to the table. You were still willing to advocate for yourself, tell me what it is that you needed, where you wanted, how you wanted to be coached, which was honing my craft as a coach. As a young man, I was in my 20s when we met, and I was mm-hmm. learning the craft. And so nowadays when I'm coaching other people, I'm always encouraging them to self-advocate. And it seems like, I don't know, JB, tell me if I'm overthinking this, but it seems like young people are less likely to do that now, where they feel comfortable talking to their coach and saying, hey, this is where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I would say in an era where we've never had more communication available to all of us, it's actually made, that face-to-face player-coach communication less. And I could say, my years with Chaska basketball, it took time of building relationship before players would feel comfortable. And so not only got to experience it on the player side, with you, but then now put it on the coach side and see how, it has changed. And I think it's more on the coach now than ever to establish that common ground so you can build on it. And then you'll be surprised because we all know kids have lots to say, right? They're talking all day in the hallways, but then, sometimes you get to something serious if it's like, oh, quiet. But there's a lot going on in there. So I think you give that time, build that common ground, they'll open up to you.
Yeah. So I know you and we had a good player-coach relationship, right? We know that, but let's talk about a couple of other ones besides you and I. Everyone knows that you and I get along great. That's wonderful. But talk to me about other coaches you've had that you've had a really strong relationship with? I know you just had a chance to go back and see Lakes and Snyder, and me and Snyder are
Man.
friends. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to go back this Friday to Lakes Community High School, first time, and man, like 8 years, something like that. So crazy. And had been talking, to Coach Snyder, which was one of the many coaches I got to see that night, which was just so special. You haven't talked to some of them in so long, and just pick back up. Like you were seeing them every day. But Coach Snyder, man, that's something that was very special because it actually was kind of the handoff. From you to kind of my next coach because I didn't play football freshman year at Lakes. Um, and so I sat out and was all in on basketball. I was working with you that fall instead of, playing football. And then went right in, and Coach Schneider was he was the freshman coach that year of my freshman year. And then so sophomore year, he went on to be the varsity coach. And man, talk about a passionate individual. I think we'll have to get him on here to talk about it. I've, vivid memories of like freshman year Coach Schneider to like, now he's talking about like stoicism and just like, just to talk about his growth in terms of like that containing, that passion energy and, a couple broken clipboards along the way. I'm sure you'd love to talk about, but it's like, that's something that like he has impacted me tons. And it's so cool now that AGB is coming back. We talked about it. It kind of got confirmed today. So like, we'll have lots to share on that coming up here, but AGB is working with, Lakes basketball, the boys team here to kick things off with their season here in November. That's going to be exciting. I'm really, really excited to do that. But on that, like one thing I think that helps you stick with a coach or like have something remember about them is they always have like a thing. And one of Coach Schneider's things was like his hustle stats. And it's something that I think if you make it bigger than the game, beyond the game, when you're approaching those relationships, that's when you're going to find the stickiness. And his was the hustle stats. And it wasn't, your points, rebounds, the stats you're going to get, right? But it's the floor dives, the charge attempts. And, that's something that has just stuck with me and got to bring it to Chaska girls basketball. But yeah, Coach Schneider, awesome guy. And he's been an awesome, mentor and resource throughout my playing careers.
Yeah, I agree with that. Everyone does have a thing, and you have a thing that we're going to talk about a little bit later that you bring to every team you're on. But I know that I've had some great relationships with some coaches. Shout out to Elliot Anderson, and we talk about him before. But tonight, I want to just really quick touch on my high school coach. I had a phenomenal relationship with my high school coach. So if you're watching from Lake Howell or on replay or live, like shout out to Steve Cohn. Anyone who played for him knows what his legacy is out there in Central Florida. His son Reggie Cohn is now also carrying on that legacy, just doing an awesome job coaching in Florida. But Steve Cohn to me was more than a coach. Like before the games, JB, or even sometimes before the practices. Like if we got out of school at 3:00 and the game wasn't until 7:00, like that's where we were. The athletes were at the coach's house, right, in his basement, playing with his ping pong table, his pool table, and his wife was making us sandwiches, and we were hanging out with the coach before the game. And so when a coach pours that kind of love and type and appreciation to who you are before you ever become what you are, right? I talk about that all the time, like what you are as a shooting guard, what you are as a varsity basketball player, but who you are is a person. Like you're a human being first and foremost, and you've got dreams and goals and sadness and good days and bad days. And when a coach can engage with that side of who you are, I mean, you will run through a wall for him or her. And so that's where I was with Steve Cohn. So shout out to Coach Cohn. If you're watching, I hope someone forwards this to you, man. I want you to know I love you. I appreciate you. I remember you. I still, to this day, if someone watches me play, they'll say, watch the spin move, watch the spin move. Like till this day, if I go hoop right now, the very first move I'm going to do when I really need a basket is the spin move. It's a little spin I do to the baseline, and I learned it from Steve Cohn. He taught me this move, and I made a career out of one move, so that was fun. But no, so okay, so Steve Cohn, Coach Snyder, Coach JB, Coach Rick, like we have good relationships with our players. But how? Let's get into it. Let's break this down. We've got 4 steps for you guys. We're gonna get in and out tonight. We've got 4 steps for you. Shout out to Andrew,
Smart.
another Lakes player in the background.
Mhm.
But no, we've got 4 steps for you, 4 cornerstones to have good relationships. So if you're an athlete, you can listen tonight with the idea of what can you do as an athlete to have a good relationship with your coach. If you're a coach, then you can listen tonight with an idea of what you can do to have better relationship with your players. And if you're a parent, you can sort of sit back and objectively say, all right, well, let me assess the coach-player relationships that my athlete's going through, and maybe be able to better tell whether or not these are productive relationships or not. All right. So here's the things. The first one's going to be very familiar to everybody. We're going to talk about care. Right. And that's a big part of the AGB mentality. It's a big part of any successful player coach relationship. If you don't care who I am, we have no shot. This is going to be very difficult for us to have a strong player coach relationship. And that goes for the player as well. If the player is not able to see their coach beyond just the expectations that they have as a coach, like, here's a news flash for every athlete ever. Coaches have bad days too, right? Coaches have difficult moments too. Coaches have flaws as human beings as well. Coaches need coaches. And so on both sides, we have to care about one another. And we have some images here that we want to put alongside as we go through this, right? So we can start seeing, um, you know, how do I get this to just be viewed?
And yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So like it doesn't get any better than these two. When you're talking about care, JB, we put these guys in our course because we're just when the more you study this relationship, the more it becomes the prototype, the quintessential coach-player relationship. Kareem chose Wooden based off of his ability to care about him, not necessarily his ability to X and O him or even to win championships, and they won plenty. But it
Right.
was about the care that Wooden established with Kareem when he was young. And then this other picture is a beautiful picture of Kareem paying it back as John Wooden got older. I love it.
Right. And I know we talk about this in the course, so here's a little sneak peek. But like one of the many examples of this is uh, the showing of what I'm going to do for you versus the bragging of what I have personally done. And so, John One does a great job of this in that first relationship. Kareem talks about it. We got this, it's on YouTube and whatnot. But that, like, if you are out there in the recruiting process, right, you're a player looking at coaches. That to me should be the number one you're trying to tune into in your conversations with them. How are they talking about your relationship? Because that's the beginning of your relationship. Are they talking about how they're going to grow you as a human, or are they bragging about how many rings they got on their finger, their school's history, which is all cool and important, but are they talking more about themselves, right? Bragging about what they've done versus what they're going to do for you. That's caring 101 as a coach, right?
That's such a great point, JB. You have to get the athlete to care about care, right? Care has to be an important component of what they're looking for from their coach. Because if all you're looking for from your coach is that they give you more skills or give you more championships or get you more exposure, then you might find yourself in a difficult player coach relationship. But if you put a high emphasis and a high priority on caring, then you'll notice it when you see it in other people, right? So I encourage everybody to care about caring. And we go way deeper into all of that in the course. So anyone who is looking to join with what we're doing, these lives is about us coming here and just having some fun with everybody and trying to teach. But we love what we're doing on Sundays, working with the people that have chosen AGB coaching as sort of their partner through their journey. And we are deep diving into the concept of care. And so that's the first cornerstone of good player coach relationships. Now, the second one is something that my man JB knows lots about, right? Is you want to have mutual respect.
Absolutely.
You want to have mutual respect for the player and the coach. And that doesn't matter where you are on the roster, right, JB?
Right. It doesn't matter where you're at. And this goes for any team organization. So not just a necessarily roster, right? This is at, any team group uh, that you are part of, right? And this is something that, and our coach was talking about a little bit, but that I've been able to bring to my teams that I coach is Benergy, right? Bench energy. And that is, put on display here, shout out Chaska girls basketball and Minnesota Fury, but they are the prime examples of this. And we actually defined this and tracked this last season, Coach Rick. And I got the definition up here, but it's those who bring energy all game. During substitutions, they stand and high five their teammates. They are vocal with shot calls, calling out screens, repeating offensive calls, shot clock countdowns, and are hyping up defensive energy. They impact the game from the bench. And I love that so much because what it does and what it did for my seniors that were in this role, it gave them a role, right? It gave them a role to own and truly impact the game without necessarily ever setting foot. And it's something that it took over the culture. You can see kind of in the back few rows there, the freshman, sophomore, the junior girls that weren't playing would come and sit behind the bench because Amelia Hartford, shout out her. She was a senior that owned it and would come up with like, all right, before the game, what are we doing? Celebrations on threes. How are we going to hype up the team from the bench? And it's just something that is I'm very proud of, but it's 100% all these girls that did it, and it's you caring and just having that mutual respect for everyone on the team. And so the cool thing is when you're playing and you see this, that makes you go, even harder. And then when the roles are reversed and these individuals are in, or the coaching staff, seeing this is how you get that full team buy-in, right? In this together attitude, everyone is playing and contributing. Benergy, man, is something I encourage you. You got a team, squad, bring this out to them because it's a good one. It gets everyone involved.
And it's funny. We can't help it. I know I can't help it. I'll speak for myself. Like basketball is like is my thing, right? So we tend to have a lot of these conversations from that perspective. But there's a couple of sports that come to my mind that do this really well. It's already built into the culture. Have you ever been to a softball game and heard? I mean, these young ladies are singing and chanting. They've got a different chant for every situation, and I just absolutely love it. And as a basketball coach, I want to borrow that sort of energy and apply it to basketball, because I think sometimes in that sport we get too consumed with self when we're not in the game, and we forget that we have a big part in that beautiful, like, hidden secret when it comes to sports, which is momentum, like adrenaline. People don't talk about those two things enough, but adrenaline and momentum are a part of winning, and everybody contributes to that, right? And so the thing I love about your Benergy is that it gives a cool little term to it, but it creates this sort of natural, I have a role here. Even if I'm not in the game, I have a role. This is important for me to be present. Now, what I want to talk about is the dual responsibility of that when it comes to the starters, right? So those of you who are getting a high amount of playing time, you have got to be able to empathize with your teammates who are bringing that energy without the necessarily the number one benefit that athletes want the most, right? We want to be in the game. Everyone knows that. So if you're in the game, you've got to have a ton of respect for those of you who are bringing energy all throughout the game. There is nothing worse, JB, than when someone plays a lot, then gets into foul trouble, or maybe gets in the doghouse with the coach, then comes out and brings no energy, right? I mean, that's a fast way to kill momentum on a team. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, nothing worse. And just like label, that's an energy vampire, right? That just deflates and sucks the energy out of a team. Because that kid is in for you, they're feeling that and they're seeing that, and they're like, dang, why am I going to cheer for them? Next time they're in. So yeah, that's no butts in the seat, right? No pouting. We're all in this, standing up and playing together. So, man, absolutely nothing worse than that.
Yeah. The other thing I want to touch on the concept of mutual respect, I think about this all the time. I was in practice today with the guys, and I just for a second, I just really thought for a minute and realized they have homework. Like I think sometimes, when you're a coach and you're passionate about winning, you're so locked into what you need to do for your 2 hours that you don't allow yourself to fully like grasp how much a student athlete is doing in a day. A student athlete is, I mean, especially at the collegiate level, I mean, they are just slammed with responsibility after responsibility. College is difficult. Being a college athlete is extremely difficult. And there's a lot of expectations on them. Now, that's not me trying to build in excuses for college athletes. You have scholarship, you have, to whom much is given, much is expected. You have this awesome talent, this ability to play a game you love. But I think as coaches, we can forget just how much they're invested in other things. And so that mutual respect is about respecting that. Like, not every time an athlete comes to your practice with low energy, are they a bad athlete? I don't believe that. Not every single time. Now, if they're doing it every day, that's a problem. But if every now and then an athlete just doesn't have it, I think a coach that understands mutual respect can see it and can attend to it in a mature way.
Absolutely, and I think it encouraged them that it's okay to have bad days, right? Just don't let a bad rep or two, or a bad school day turn it into a bad practice. Like, let's at least if we can get the most out of these reps, but then life is happening outside of it. So addressing that, yeah, huge.
Yeah. So I love it. All right. So we know care is super important. We know that mutual respect is super important. And now we got to talk about the dreaded coach's office. Doom, 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 doom. I mean, I'm joking. I'm having fun with you guys tonight. But at the end of the day, a lot of us see our coach's office like this. Some of us see our boss's office like this. Some of us see our mom and dad's bedroom like this. Some of us see different people in our lives that may have some sense of authority over us as this like big scary situation that we've got to like get ourselves ready to embrace, when ultimately behind that door should be someone who truly genuinely cares about who you are, right? And if you have somebody that genuinely cares about you who you are, this door is not scary. So, but here's what I want you to understand: there is very little to none, so I'm going to go with none. There is no mind reading across the store. Like, whoever's on your coaches cannot read your mind. You have frustrations, you have roles that you want to play, or you're being asked to play. You don't like the role that you're being asked to play. In your head, you're upset, but you haven't knocked on the door. You haven't asked for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of your coach's time to explain how you feel about your role. Now, in reverse of that, coaches, some of you guys are demanding that athletes embrace their role. You want them to hug their role and love it and do it to the best of their ability, and they don't even know what it is. You haven't communicated to the micro level of each individual and seen them as people and said, hey, I want to talk to you about how you can fit in this big macro scheme of system that we're putting together, right? Are you spending time talking to your midfielder about what she can do to help the team win? Or are you just saying as a whole, we're in this set, right? And so I think it's so important to we probably should have not made this so gloomy. We should have probably created another lighter, fluffier door, but there needs to be another door that looks very inviting, and I think as coaches, it's important to have an open door policy. Your athletes can come see you, talk to you about whether or not they know their role, about whether or not they agree with their role and they're really ready to embrace it. And then they need pointers on how to maximize their role. So those are 3 things we talk about. We'll make sure we add it to this link as well. If you guys are watching this on the replay, check the description. We will put our game day checklist that we've been putting out in all of our content lately. we'll put that in the description, and it has an opportunity for you to ask yourself, do you know your role? Do you fully embrace your role? And are you maximizing your role on a nightly basis? So I think that's what open communication is all about. JB, what do you have on that?
Yeah, that last one, maximizing your role. I think that's a big one for us, like athletes out there. You know, there's different seasons, just like there's different seasons of life. There's different seasons where you're going to be the superstar, and that's where we all want to be. Like we want the ball in our hand, but there might be some seasons where your role, is to be that bench player, or it is to maximize the time in practice, right? And that like never underestimate the power of a practice player, right? Who's going against the starters and giving them realistic reps. So, understand that there's seasons and maximizing your role. It's such a good one that will carry into life after sports. But on that open communication, I had an opportunity to coach Rick at the beginning of last basketball season, probably like a year from now. Coach Tara took me to a coaching conference, and Kelly Ray Finley was a speaker. She's her current head basketball coach for the Gators down in Florida, and she has this term called "connect the dots." It's all about the open communication, and she and her staff do an amazing job of like they tally or like record every shot, even in practice, from like your warm up reps all the way until the in practice reps, and they give you your stats of practice. And what she does is like, okay, if you were the coach and you had to put the best team together based on this 3 weeks of practice, and these are the trends, who are you putting on the court? And so she connects the dots all the way down, to each individual shot at practice, which is like you have to have a lot of people to do stuff like that, but it carries over into their culture where they're over communicating everything. And so connecting the dots is something to kind of think about too. Like, as you're talking through different generations, we talk about this all the time, Rick, right? That's one of the things we love about AGB is we bring two different perspectives to the table. And I think that's something to remind yourself as a player. My coach has lived through different times of me, and then same thing as a player to a coach, or a coach to a player, like different perspectives.
Well, I absolutely love that, JB, and it's a great segue into the next thing that I want to talk about. But the truth is that my hope is that, yeah, okay, if you're D1 or you have a big staff, yes, please stat as much as you can, and you cannot over communicate in coaching. So get as much information as you can, and then help that communicate that to your athletes so they know exactly where they stand. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But what I also hope is that if you have these other cornerstones in place, if you know your coach cares about you, you have mutual respect for them and they have for you, and then there's an open communication door between you guys, then the trust is built in there that even without seeing, right? Faith is the substance of things not seen. So if you have faith in your coach, you don't need to see the stats to know that their selections are based off of the very thing that she's talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think what happens is that trust erodes over time. And I think I know one of the reasons why it erodes over time. And that's what I want to talk about in our fourth cornerstone, right? And that is, why is Scrooge McDuck, or why is Donald Duck, whoever that is, why is he on your screen? I'm going to tell you because I've been so excited to explain this to people. Every time I say it, people look at me like, Rick, what are you talking about? But I just want everyone to bask right now in how happy this character looks on this screen. And if you guys, I'm older, right? Gen X, right? We grew up around Disney Afternoon, and Scrooge McDuck every day would dive into this pool of gold coins, and he would just be the happiest person ever whenever he was around gold, right? Now, this isn't necessarily a conversation around greed or money and anything like that, but I want athletes and coaches, in fact, I want every human ever, to be able to view accountability the way this person, this duck, views these gold coins. Dive in and get as much of it as you can because it has value. And instead of getting sad and depressed and upset and allowing trust to be eroded whenever someone is holding you accountable, I want you to embrace it fully with a smile on your face. Like, give me more, give me more. I want as much of it as I can, hoard that accountability, because the growth and the ability to reach your goals is all mixed in there. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, but sometimes they're wrong. And I couldn't agree with you more. A lot of times when people are telling you things about what you need to do to get better, or they have an opinion about where you are in life, not everything that they say is accurate. But embracing it is still the fastest way to find out if there's any truth to it. If you dismiss it because it's just bothersome to you to be held accountable at all, you can't assess whether it has any value or not. So people are always giving me a hard time as to why I'm always asking for feedback, and why I'm so quick to jump in and take blame on things. It's because this is the way I view accountability. It's not something I run away from. It's something I run towards. And it is sort of made me Teflon. I'm in a lot of ways, I'm a human version of Teflon. Not a lot of things get to me. Not a lot of things break my spirit. And it's because accountability is kind of my jam. So I think if you can bring that to your coach-player relationships, you'll find both sides will get better.
100%. And throughout my playing years like that, I think even on the coaches where you would say you don't have the best relationship with, like, this is something that all coaches, I think, can bring at the base level, right? Someone who's going to be there and, hold you accountable when you're not doing what you said you were going to be doing. And I love that, basking in it, being as happy, as you can, no matter what does come through your way. It's something that all great coaches bring to the table, holding you accountable, getting you better, and, right, always get better. So.
And the thing too, not to belabor the point, JB, but the thing is too, I see this very common with athletes and coaches, is that they will assign value to the things that you're saying. Okay, so let's say that you got an athlete and you told the athlete 10 things in a week, and 8 of them were positive things. You told them 8 positive things about everything that you're excited about, what they're doing, what they're bringing to the table. They've been on time. They know the sets. They're bringing great energy. You're loving what they're doing. And then they've assigned, say, $1 worth of value to those 8 compliments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you tell them 2 things that are constructive in nature. 2 things like, hey, you're not doing this well enough. Hey, I'm disappointed in this. Hey, you need to do this better, right? But they assign that like minus $10 in value, right? And then so at the end of the week, they feel depleted. They feel like you don't believe in them. They feel like you don't trust them, because they've assigned way too much value to the criticism and not enough value to the praise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we all are guilty of that at times. And so I am encouraging everyone to count it all joy, to count it all valuable. The compliments, great, that's worth $1. The criticism, great, that's worth $1. Just keep them coming. Okay. And then you'll be rich with self-confidence, because accountability is not something that you're worried about.
Yep. And, on the coach, like, I think everyone reacts and is better. Like, at the end of the day, yeah, well, I wish we could all be like that, Coach Rick, right? Everything's $1, right? But some of us definitely react to things better. So I think, challenge to our coaches out there, right? Of know your team, right? Know how they react to that accountability, because I think that's how you can get the most out of all 15 members of your roster versus that 10 who respond best to what you're doing.
That's such a great point, JB. Such a great point. You can't assume that everyone has this. And so you've got to approach each of them differently. And that goes back to the last slide, where that coach's office has to be open.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to take time to get to know them as individuals. There has to be mutual respect there. And the baseline of it all is that you have to care. Right. So we appreciate you guys engaging with us tonight, talking about player-coach relationships. If there's something you think we missed, or other things that you think add to a strong player-coach relationship, put it in the comments. We will respond to that whenever we can. But even better, if you are struggling as a coach to establish good relationships with your players. If you think that, it's 2023 and these players are changing and it's just hard to connect with them, we want to help you. And we think we have some information that we can help you with. And likewise, if you're an athlete and you're having a hard time connecting with your coach, AGB Coaching is here. JB brings positive energy. I bring 20 years of gray hair and wisdom, and we try to put that together and help as many people as we can. So we'll be back again next week to go live with some new topics. And until then, it's go Orioles.
Let's go Rangers. Keep it going. Hey, we'll see y'all next time.